Welcome, everybody. I'm Zack Miller, Tearsheet's editor-in-chief. I'm joined by Hermann Frank today, CEO of Gigs and co-founder. We'll talk about Hermann in a second, but this is Tearsheet Live. This is where we kind of open up the go behind the scenes for our podcast, which typically for many years have been audio only, recorded. We bring this to you live on LinkedIn. So if you do have questions for Hermann or for me, you can submit those in the comment section. We will see those, and if it's a good question, we'll ask it live. Introducing this session, this is all about mobile intersecting with finance. And so earlier this year, I first heard about this kind of move of fintechs offering mobile plans when Revolut and then Nubank, I think it was in the first and second quarter of this year, both launched mobile services. And to me, having been in this industry for a while, it just felt like it was a bit of, cross-marketing sell. Like, both these companies have big audiences. It makes sense to, sell another service in. We've definitely covered the opposite, where a few years ago, many of the telephony companies were looking to get into banking. A couple of them launched, but none of them really had a whole lot of success. But I feel like something's different now, and Hermann will share with us. He said in TechCrunch, this is about creating an ecosystem where banking acts as a hub for multiple value-added services. That's what's interesting to me. And so, Hermann, I want to welcome you to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Zach.
So let's start, at the basics. What is Gigs and how does Gigs work?
Sure. Gigs is a platform that enables any business to launch their own mobile service in a matter of days. So what we're basically making possible is that you can make phone plans embeddable and programmable for whatever use case you might have as a platform. So you can imagine a device company like a smartwatch or smartphone company where you buy the device, you activate it, and in the sign-up process for the device, you can subscribe to a phone plan, pay with Apple Pay or credit card, and we instantly activate the subscription, so the device is live. So it's the most frictionless journey you could possibly have. And when putting a device live, you could think of a neobank as the topic of today, right? Where you can buy data when you're traveling abroad through the application without ever leaving it, right? The bank knows you're going somewhere. You just tap a button and you just stay connected wherever you go. Or then even more successively become the main operator, right, of your mobile service at home, given that many of those banks have cultivated the kind of right type of audience that values good user experience and right bundling. Or imagine an HR platform provisioning phone plans for new employees. When you start a new company, you automatically get a phone plan pushed to your phone, all programmatically without any human intervention. So Gigs basically offers the infrastructure to do just that.
It's a pretty wild idea, the fact that that it's become so easy and modular to be able to launch this. Like in years past, like MVNOs, like those were massive undertakings for a company to launch it. Like, I guess what technology had to catch up to be able to unlock the ability to create this type of technology?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, like you described already quite well, what the traditionally the problem was. Like everyone who attempted to become an MVNO in a traditional sense had to go through a massively heavy lift to launch the service. Most MVNOs failed because they never were able to recoup the capex and then the ongoing operational expenses that you need to put in if you run it in a more traditional way of a lot of manual overhead, intervention, customer support. And there was no unified programmable infrastructure between the networks and whatever company wants to launch a service until Gigs. And we took us ourselves like about 3 years to build the infrastructure to make it happen.
And it resonates with us because we focus on financial services, but I like the fact that you made an analogy to Stripe. Can you talk about, I guess, the parallels that you see there?
Yeah, absolutely. So just like with the payments industry before Stripe, Adyen, and the likes came along, it was an incredibly heavy lift for companies to become a platform that can accept payments or offer banking services, right? You needed to cut through a lot of regulatory red tape. You need to partner with banks. You need to go to Visa, Mastercard, Amex, right? Like have deals with all of those. Then you need to build the technical infrastructure to facilitate all that.
It's like a lot of Stripe's features are entire other companies, like
exactly.
it's unbelievable.
And Stripe came along and just gave you this button you can put anywhere and accept payments for anything you do, everything you create, whatever you can think of. You can now monetize it. And the complexity in the telecom space is very, very similar to that of the banking and payments space. You have similar actors. You have similar regulatory environments. And then if you want to go multinational, you need to do this over and over and over again. So someone needed to create a platform that can abstract all of that regulatory, legal, technical, and commercial complexity away from the companies that are looking to launch a service, and just give them the final result. And this is what Gigs does.
Great. So maybe we could double click on what it would have taken to build a service like this without Gigs, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm a bank or I'm a fintech, and I, 3 years ago when you were just starting, and I wanted to launch a mobile plan for my customers, what would it have taken me then to do something like this?
It will be quite a journey, Zach. So
could I have even done it?
You could have. It's just an incredibly heavy lift. So first you need to get in touch with a mobile network, right? Typically in any given mature market, there's 3 to 4 national carriers that offer services. You need to kind of make your case. What are you trying to build? What is the mobile service you're trying to launch? You need to negotiate the right commercials. And then you need to negotiate a very long tail of different contractual obligations, network services, SLAs, and so on. That takes about 6 to 12 months, with the median being on the longer side of that span. So once you have a contract with the operator signed, that usually comes in the US, you would be in the vicinity of a high 2-digit to 3-digit millions amount of commitments that you need to post, which, if you're a fintech or a delivery company or an HR tech, you probably won't do that because that's not your core business. Now you need to go and build the stack that will enable you to use your commercial agreement. This is typically 6 to 7 platforms that you need to integrate. You need a layer that integrates into the operator. Most of the time, these are relatively old school businesses, right? That have been around for a couple of decades. You need the billing engine. You need a platform that can run your subscriptions. It can manage them and like everything around them.
So you'd have to cobble all these pieces together, right, from different vendors as well, right?
Yeah. So you basically imagine you're you need a car, and you would go and buy all the parts and tape it together in your garage, and just to be able to do what you actually need to do, namely drive to work or do your business. And basically what Gigs does is we just give you a pre-assembled car that you can just buy, and now you can build a business on top of that. The whole journey previously took about 18 months. With Gigs, you can do it in a matter of days.
That's incredible. And how did you innovate on the commercials, I guess, as well? You don't necessarily have to get into specific, but how do you think about pricing and working with your customers?
Yeah. So we have wholesale agreements with our operators that we work with, and typically the calculation is as follows: we are always larger than our largest customer, and wholesale in telecom is very much volume driven. So what our customers can rely on is that they will get the pricing they would get from the operators at their size, but without the commitments, without the risk, without going through all the regulatory hurdles. And we have a delta, and I think similarly to like now Stripe and Adyen at their maturity, I will probably make a certain amount of margin on very big customers and make a bigger amount of margin on smaller customers, right? And like we have a portfolio there, and next to it we have platform fees, right? Like for all kinds of features that we offer, as we kind of continue building out the feature set of the platform and can abstract away even further ways that you need to run the service, like customer support, like logistics and so on. And these are separate items.
And you mentioned if you were to have done this on your own, kind of the DIY version, you would have had to put up a capital commitment. How do you handle capital commitments?
I mean, that's kind of our core business, right? Like we're growing quite quickly, so we kind of are able to estimate across our portfolio kind of what our run rate will be in terms of usage and growth, and it makes it simpler to buy for a growing number of large platforms, and kind of abstract away a risk when it's across a portfolio versus an individual endeavor that you would have, right? Like for example,
you have you're an aggregator in that sense. Yeah.
So like that's one layer of the business is exactly this, right? And the aggregation business previously existed in telecom as well, but it just didn't give you anything else. So it was basically, it abstracted away some of that complexity, but like you still needed to do all the rest. And it Gigs is the first one, like really stack together all the components you needed to run a service end to end, and just gives you the keys, and you can start. I think another very interesting tidbit on this is the US has 16,000 tax jurisdictions for telecom. So pretty much every county has a 10 plus item list of telecom taxes that do change quite regularly. So even that part, like the tax engine you need to run and be able to bill customers all across the US, it has been quite a nightmarish endeavor that each one of our customers would have to solve by themselves, and we are also offering as part of our technology stack.
That's an excellent point. I hadn't thought about that, but that must be a very complex
to be honest, we have neither until we started running the business.
Yeah.
And like, oops, we need to pay 50 states now, and like each county is going to send us their own bill. It was a year-long project to get it shipped, so it's kind of replicable across the customers.
Awesome. So we mentioned Nubank at the beginning of this conversation. Can we talk about the relationship with Nubank and what they launched with you guys?
So very excited about this partnership, obviously. And I think Nubank is kind of a stellar example of what it means to operate a neobank at large scale and extreme efficiency. And
I mean, most of our coverage is on US neobanks, and we look at Nubank in Brazil, and it's like, wow, it's like a totally different model.
I mean, I would dare to say a lot of neobanks around the world have a poster of neobank on the wall, right? And like of Nubank on the wall. So
right.
It's a fantastic business, and we're extremely happy to be able to partner with them. So in this first step, as you've read, right, we are offering travel sims to Nubank's Ultravioleta customers, which is their premium tier of credit card. Basically, if you're going abroad, you just tap a button inside of the app. You agree to our terms and conditions, as we are the legal carrier of record. In the sense, many of our customers do operate in regulated industries, and you need to be registered as an MVNO. So we kind of take that away as well as an abstraction. And then you can install inside of the app with one tap. You can install the SIM card. Don't need to leave. No need to scan any QR codes. And you're online. It's really quite magical. I think you can activate like within less than 30 seconds from reading about it to like you being live on a network. I think that kind of paints a possible future, right, into what this could become.
So for Nubank, it sounds like the use case there is for a customer who is traveling and is an upsell. I'm kind of curious, is that correct, first of all?
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
covers it.
As I was thinking about the potential for this, right? So there is this just, okay, we've got a banking product and now we have a mobile product, and they're two separate things, and both are sort of utilities, but they're not high, like what you talked about, the onboarding, that was highly integrated, but maybe as products they're not integrated. But as I started thinking about it, I was like, there's a lot more you can do when you have access to the phone, and I guess you have that customer as a mobile customer. Maybe we can talk about some of the, I guess, today's use cases and potential use cases within fintech and finance.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that what we're seeing generally across the industry with the multitude of neobanks and also more traditional banks getting into the space is the notion that neobanks in particular have been able to accumulate this vast user base of mostly millennials, Gen Z, that are used to life working on one or two taps, right? Like you can order a car, you can subscribe to Netflix, you can sign up for a bank in a couple of minutes, and everything lives on your phone, and you can interact and manipulate whatever you do right there on the phone. The only industry that hasn't caught up to that quite yet is telecom, right? Which still is largely a complicated endeavor to procure a phone plan, right? To activate it, or God forbid you need anything changed in your SIM card, you need to activate roaming, you need a second line. Most of the time, that means a phone call or a visit to the store. So within fintech particularly, you have this perfectly curated circle of people that just appreciate good user experience, and neobanks have been able to take a low NPS industry like banking was before they came along and turn it into extremely high NPS industry. Like in Nubank's case, they have a 97 NPS. So it kind of, if you look at a range of products that are as core to a person's life as their banking relationship and their credit card, there's not much that comes close except for the phone plan. Like we even have an analogy at Gigs. It's like, phone chat, check, wallet check. Like you have two pockets, right? You carry the one thing in the one, you carry the other in the other.
I get that.
For the banks to kind of look at the other pocket and how they can integrate it is quite a natural evolution, right, of their relationship with the customer. And now that it's possible to do it and to integrate it, and you have the right commercial structure, you have the right technical infrastructure to do it, I think we'll be seeing this space embracing that and quite in quite short amount of time. And for the consumer, you can now, for the first time, really structure bundled offers that are tailored to their lifestyle. So your previous phone plan was just that. It was a phone plan, and like it's this utility that we all have. But with now that it's embeddable and programmable, you could create all kinds of things around it. You can strap on an insurance onto the phone plan because you're on the phone, you have the app, you kind of see what's happening. So basically, you can automate the whole process. You can bundle travel, right, as we're seeing already happening. Mm-hmm. If it's a kind of a user base with an affinity to international travel, you can bundle devices. So everything now kind of can speak to each other and live within the bank's app. And I think that's quite an exciting world that is about to arise there.
Totally. And post Nubank and the news that launched, did you see, what kind of interest are you seeing within fintech to sort of replicate those types of services?
I mean, we've seen it building up kind of behind the scenes over the last year or so, and like obviously now with Nubank and Revolut, arguably two of the most
best, right?
successful players out there. Going into this, we're definitely seeing even more elevated excitement and time to market.
Are you seeing any traditional institutions like licensed banks or?
Yeah, we're definitely being approached by more traditional institutions, some kind of
Mm-hmm.
household names as well.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we're very happy and excited to work with them as well. I would assume neobanks will be faster, but that
Sure.
doesn't mean that, traditional banks have no space in this or shouldn't play. I think it just shows how much of a nerve it's hitting in the entire industry, right? That this is now possible. So, Gigs as a platform works quite intensely with its partners to make sure it's a successful product. So we don't just give you an API key and like go figure it out. We do really work on like creating the service with you. And I think especially for traditional banks that will help to ensure that the product is on point.
Is there an intention, I guess, as you sign on other neobanks, and I'd like to ask you in a second what other industries you work with, but embedding some of their products into the overall offering? So is there an intention almost to aggregate customer service, functionality, I guess, across industries, across customers?
So in the banking space,
Yeah.
if I'm misunderstanding it, feel free to double click. But so in the banking space, for example, one development we're seeing is, of course, the credit relationship for the phone, right? That like now becomes something that is more tenable to
right.
pair with the phone plan, and I think kind of that already shows you the secondary effects that it can have if you're able to offer phone plan. Now that you are taking over what is arguably one of the most common, if not the most common, type of credit line that that consumers have in the world, is that the phone is financed, right? And typically this is done by the MNO, but you have the perfect storm brewing if now there's a bank behind it and the bank has its own brand of phone plan.
Right. So I guess I was extending that question to say you have another customer in the health services space. Could you also embed a banking partner in that offering when you're dealing with another industry as a client? Will you act as an aggregator of different services? Like, I guess where you decide to build your own
I think that's
functionality.
a very good question. I would say it depends on like across like how horizontally or vertically you're looking at it. So what we definitely see a lot of demand for from our side is, alongside the phone plans, a lot of our customers would love to be able to offer devices, right? But again, they don't want to like go and figure out what device partners there are, how it all works.
Business, right.
So I think you will see us over time, right, like adding that type of service into the platform, so that now you can plug in these two services. A similar thing could be said a bit about insurance. So I think that is kind of where horizontally as a package it makes sense. Yes, I would say in the health tech example, it probably would still be the bank that then comes with Gigs already embedded and embed themselves into the healthcare system.
That makes sense. We're getting near the end of our conversation. I did want to ask you what other industries, you sort of alluded to it in that question. What other industries are you active in?
So we started out with devices. So we're quite market leading when it comes to everything from smartwatches to feature phones and like increasingly also smartphones. I think like companies like Lightphone and Explorer would be two internationally quite well-known examples. And one space we're particularly excited about and we're looking at next is the whole HR people tech space. So whenever there's like an employer enabled phone plan or the need for one, automating that, I think there's a big gap on the market. It's incredibly complex to manage connectivity for SMBs, for international enterprises. We're currently setting up something for a partner in like over 20 markets, right? And like aggregating all of their connectivity needs across all the markets they have offices or employees or business in. And I think that it will truly show the power of a one global coherent platform that kind of abstracts everything away and is fully embeddable. It's a massive opportunity.
It sounds that way, and it's incredibly complex, but it's also one of those ideas that once you hear it, it's like, wow, that doesn't exist. Like, why didn't that exist? It's that level of idea, at least to me. As we're almost halfway exactly through 2024, maybe we can end on a question about like what's your big audacious goal for the rest of this year or the next 18 months, say?
We're working on a few customers that we're very excited about, and similar to Nubank, and we're doing our best to kind of launch them throughout this year. I think if we can bring some of those over the line, it's gonna be a year we'll definitely not forget as a company. That's executing well on this is definitely what we're most excited about.
Got it. Well, best of luck in that. And Hermann, thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet Live. This is Zack Miller, Tearsheet's editor-in-chief. If you want to hear about more events like this online, come and sign up for our newsletter. You can see it in the video. It's tearsheet.co. We send it out a couple days a week, including a Sunday edition. Hermann, thanks for joining us, and thank you all for joining us as well.
Zack, thank you so much for having me.